First up is Deadpool and Wolverine, and this is a sequel to Deadpool 2, which came out in 2018, and this is also the first time that Deadpool is technically in the MCU, which is very exciting for some of us, and probably mind-numbing to others. So I am going to start off by saying I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I really enjoyed this film, but that is because I'm a super nerd who pays not only attention to the comings and goings of the characters on screen in the MCU and the 20th Century Fox formerly separate universe of like X-Men and Deadpool, but I'm also someone who pays attention to things like casting rumors and publicity and PR tours and all that type of thing. So for me, this was yum, 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 delicious, hilarious. A lot of the jokes are going to go over the head of a lot of people. That also counts people who might be familiar with, parts of the MCU, but the meta-ness of this film is completely off the charts. I'm not going to go into the plot at all, aside from to say that Wolverine and Deadpool team up. This is in the trailers. This is not a spoiler. It is the name of the movie. Why is Logan here, considering he died in a beautiful and poetic way in 2017? A question for the money people at Disney, but Deadpool takes full advantage of that and acknowledges many things that you might ask yourself as an audience. Does that get a little tiring? For me, no, but I could again see, I was thinking about it as like, my mother is really excited to see this film, and I think it's very funny that she is, because she loves stuff like this and Ted, and yet growing up, she would, actually not even growing up, even as fully formed adults, she would yell at me and my sister for swearing, so I'm like, how come it's okay for them to do, but not for us? And how come we find it funny when they do it, but not when we make dirty jokes or whatever it is? So I was thinking about her during this film, which is also a weird, upsetting thing to say, but I was thinking about her experience watching this film and like, how much of this will she get? I am not entirely sure, honestly. I think because she likes the other Deadpool films, she'll still have a good time, right? There's plenty of broad humor in this that scratches that itch, but this one goes all in on the fact that they have this Disney tie now. And again, if you don't know what they're referencing, they spend a considerable portion of the film referencing these things. So, it might be a slightly imbalanced thing for you. The other folks joining this film are Matthew Macfadyen as Mr. Paradox, again, that is not a spoiler, and Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, who is Charles Xavier's twin. This is deep cut X-Men stuff. I mean, it's not that deep cut, but the other thing I will note is that this does incorporate plot events that have happened on the other MCU films and the Disney Plus shows. And so if you are not caught up on that, to its credit, it is not reliant on you being caught up because it is so meta, and because, the Deadpool films use so much exposition. It will tell you what you need to know, but it might just be a little jarring to jump into and be like, what are they talking about? Because it's just a lot of mumbo jumbo, which, again, it's based on a comic, but whatever, fine, love it. I think the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman is definitely there. There are times to me where it didn't feel as natural because Hugh Jackman is playing the broodier Wolverine, and as we've seen him in Logan and all this stuff, he's playing serious straight-laced drama with a couple of jabs here and there versus Deadpool, who's just the merc with the mouth and just going for it, So when it comes to plot, this is a gobbledygook film. Like, that's fine, You're not here for the plot of this film. You're here for the dynamic duo of the two of them. You're here for the other characters. You're here for the jokes. You're here for the soundtrack, which was pretty spectacular. I'm not gonna lie, like, they released the track list before and I was like, ooh, this is a really good soundtrack. And not only that, they use it really well within the film. So I was very grateful for that. Now, as a film in and of itself, hard for me to evaluate just because I was like, I am so the target audience for this as somebody who is entrenched in the film industry and has, if ties to certain things of this film, I'm like, yeah, this was a movie made for me. But looking at it from the perspective of, like I said, like my parents who are going to go see it and like, will they have fun? I think they will have a level of fun. If you have not seen any of the Deadpool movies, I don't know why you would try and start with the threequel here, because it wouldn't make any sense. And also, why have you not watched the other two to this point? Of the three of them, I still think Deadpool 1 holds just such a special place in my heart, partially because it was so unexpected and it is so my sense of humor, and it was so different than anything that had been done, and I just loved it so much. Deadpool 2 is good, but I would not gonna lie and say forgettable. This one, it's just like, is it a movie or is it just a running commentary on the state of the entertainment industry? Probably indexes more towards the latter, but truly a beautiful time capsule of that moment. So I very much appreciate it for that. But long-winded way of saying, thinking about, like, my parents will still enjoy it because it has enough of the broad stuff to enjoy. If you were not on board with the Deadpool franchise before and are, being tempted by this, incorporation of Wolverine, who's an X-Man, and you liked X-Men, this is still a Deadpool movie. So keep that in mind. I would say start with Deadpool first, which is on Disney Plus right now, or find a way to see it. And if you don't like that, or you don't like the trailers, you're not gonna like this film. This film is very surface level when it comes to the humor and the vibe and all that stuff. So that is my caution to you. If you are a fan of the MCU, of the Fox CU that's now MCU, of all this stuff, if you kept up with that, I'm going to give this a 4.2 out of 5. You're going to have a good time. If you are a broader audience, I'm going to drop that score down a little bit. I'm just going to caution you that, like, there might be a lot that you're going to have to look up after or not bother to look up after, because is it worth it to you? It's a question only you can answer. But I had a wonderful time. So I'm going to give it a 4.2 out of 5. The next thing I have this week is a new series on Apple TV+, and it's called Time Bandits, and yes, it is based on the Terry Gilliam film, and I think the funniest or strangest thing to me about Time Bandits is that it is being marketed / sectioned into the Apple TV+ family and kids section, and I'm like, I don't know if this is for kids. I'm not saying it's not kid-friendly, but the jokes in it, like the good jokes in it, are so complex or so in reference to things that I don't think most younger or like even, I don't know, up to middle school children will get. I don't even know if high school kids would get it. You know, there's some like deep history cuts here. The premise is it's about an 11-year-old named Kevin who ends up running into a set of bandits, and they hop through time and they go on a bunch of adventures. The episodes are short and breezy. There are 10 of them. Each one is themed around a different historical era or person or something like that. I loved this show. I thought it was so funny. It is from Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement, and their sense of humor is just much like the Deadpool first film, so up my alley. So I was already inclined to like this. I will also acknowledge this is not going to be for everyone. I think some of it will probably be very annoying to people. Honestly, this is similar to Deadpool in many senses. It's not nearly as rapid fire or grating or etc., but it is absurdist, and so you have to be prepared to handle that. Of the names you would know, it stars Lisa Kudrow, Rachel House, Charlene Yee, Taika Waititi, and Jermaine Clement have roles in it. And then I just have to shout out that the kid who plays Kevin, his name is Kal-El Tuck. And I saw that on the screen. I was like, that has to be a joke. Nope, that is his actual name, and I love that for him. So my big thing with this is I was like, okay, the first Time Bandits film, I never would have at all categorized as a kid-friendly at all film, because any Monty Python, Terry Gilliam thing, like, you know, it's something you discover at some point maybe, and you're like, oh, this is mature, and I feel rebellious by getting to watch it at a young age, or whatever it may be, but this is being clearly, like, categorized as such. So my thing is, it's definitely not for little kids, because I just think the jokes will go over their heads. As an adult, I thought it was hilarious. It does drag in some points, even though the episodes are short, you know, I think maybe we could have shaved off, like, one or two, but when the jokes are good, they are so ridiculously funny, to me at least, and you're getting a sense of my sense of humor based on even this episode alone. So I had a wonderful time. If you watch the trailer for this and you're like, this is not for me, I'm not going to push you to watch it, but if you're on the fence, I say give it 2 or 3. And again, they're short, but I just thought it was so funny and creative and just absurd, and I just had a wonderful time watching it. So Time Bandits, the first 2 episodes are out now, and then the rest are going to start dropping weekly. The last thing I have this week is a new limited series on Netflix called The Decameron, and I was very surprised because I had not seen or heard much about this show, and given that the cast is actually, like, pretty well known, you'll recognize some of them, you'll be like, I have seen them in things before, or you might actually know them by name, like Zoe Mamet and Tony Hale are in this, and then of the folks, and this is not to discredit their work, but like Tanya Reynolds from Sex Education's in this, Amar Chadha Patel from, like, Willow is in this, Saoirse Monica Jackson from Dairy Girls, like, there's a bunch of people you'd be like, I have seen you in something. And that's not to discredit their work or whatever. It's just, you know, but they are people who you've seen in projects before. And I would even say, like, Zoe Mamet, you know, not the smallest of names. So the fact that you don't see a lot about this is just like, what's going on? Maybe they're counting on word of mouth. And I will be one of those mouthpieces right now because, again, the trailer looked absurd. I was like, I would very much like to see the show. It's based on a book. The show is set in 1348 Italy during the Black Death, and the book itself is, I guess the closest comparison, it could be something like Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, where it's a bunch of short stories about characters. It's written by Giovanni Boccacino. I don't know anything about him, but the plot is Black Death is happening, and so a bunch of characters come together at this secluded villa. You've got nobles, you've got peasants and servants, all these folks, and it's just how they interact with each other. And these are some of the most morally questionable characters. Also, it's one of those shows where I'm like, oh, can you watch and enjoy a show where you are not rooting for anybody? And the answer is yes. And I did enjoy it. And, it fluctuates, right? They all go on their little journeys. Lots of episodes feature different characters having their various dynamics explored. It's a very sexually charged show. Just a lot of lewdness happening. So it's not a warning per se, but just be aware this is like an R-rated equivalent show, and it's part of the humor. It goes a little far sometimes, but like I said, these are not relatable characters. I hope these are not relatable characters, because most of the time, most of them are terrible. However, still very watchable. Like, I really enjoyed it. It's not going to be for everyone. I think that is the kind of theme of the week. This is not for everybody. Once again, I'm going to say, if you see the trailer and you're like, no, I will support you in your decision not to watch this. But if you see the trailer and you're intrigued and you think it'll be funny, I think you'll find yourself really enjoying it. The Decameron is on Netflix.